Welcome to the start of the fall 2022 semester for Math 1325 Business Calculus. My name is Professor Prather. It's pronounced with a long A like you pray in church, Prather, even though there's no Y in the spelling. A good way to reach me is this email address, richard.a.prather@lonestar.edu. And the contact information for me is also in the syllabus that we're going to go over. This is an introductory video that's just going to give you an introduction to the class. We're going to go through important parts of the syllabus, what to expect for the calendar for the whole semester, and then how to register and work inside of MyMathLab where all the coursework is done. Then there's going to be 2 videos per week the rest of the semester, where I will do lecture videos and do examples of homework problems and discuss important things. But in this first video, this is just how to get started in the class. So this first week we have kind of 3 videos just because you need to know how to get going in the class. So first thing, let's go to the syllabus. The course is Math 1325. There's a section number 4W01. As of right now, this is the only section of 1325 I have. Sometimes they give me more than one of the same class, but right now I only have this one 1325 class. So if you email me and just mention that you're in 1325, then I'll know which class you're coming from. Sometimes somebody will email me and they'll say, I'm in your math class and I have this issue, and then I got to try to figure out which class they're even in, since I teach multiple different math classes normally. The prerequisite for this class is college algebra, so there is a lot of algebra involved in this class too. So that's a very important math subject. That's the basis for all future math classes after college algebra. Some students go along the trig and pre-calculus and calculus path. Others go into finite, Math 1324, and then they take this Math 1325 business calculus. There's a generic list of topics we're going to cover and then some more specific ones. You can read through this. Some of this might sound like a foreign language to you if you've never seen this stuff before. So I often tell students that if you reread this first page close to the final exam, then you might be surprised how much of this you recognize at that point. We use MyMathLab for all things that count for a grade in this class, so it's required that you get MyMathLab access. You can do 3 things, though. You can buy a brand new textbook. The textbook is Calculus with Applications, 12th edition. The author is Lyle, Greenwell, and Ritchie. The publisher is Pearson, and it's the first time we're using this edition. It was just published in 2022. You can buy a brand new textbook at the Lone Star bookstore or even online somewhere like Amazon. And if you buy a brand new textbook, it has an access code inside the textbook that gets you MyMathLab at no additional charge. But that's the most expensive option. Many students can't afford that because it costs like over $200 just for a textbook. So it just kind of depends on your preference whether you want to spend that kind of money for a textbook or not. But that is an option to buy a brand new textbook. And the one advantage of it is you get the MyMathLab for free. Many students, though, would rather save money, and then some will either get a used or rental book somewhere, either at a bookstore or online, and then pay for MyMathLab separately. And they'll tell me that that's often much less than buying the brand new textbook that it comes with for free. So that's one way to save money. But the downside is that somebody probably already used the access, whoever used the book first, so then you have to pay for that separately. The third option, which is what most math students these days do, is most math students don't get real textbooks anymore, because as soon as you pay for MyMathLab, it comes with a free electronic textbook that's identical to the real one. So you'll see me during some of the lecture videos where I'll open up the e-text and point something out in the book, and that way you'd be able to open it up anytime you want to. There is even a 2-week free trial option when you register for MyMathLab, where you can pay now or you can pay later. And so even if you do the 2-week free option, which I definitely suggest anybody who's not ready to pay right now, is to do the 2-week free option, and then you still get access to the ebook during those 2 weeks. So yes, it might be disappointing or surprising that all of a sudden now you have to pay close to $100 for another thing for this class that you might not have been expecting when you registered for it, although they claim that they tell students that ahead of time. But it's actually better than in the old days. Back when I was in college, we didn't have these electronic things, and we would pay the maximum price for a textbook, and then we would return it at the end of the semester, and they'd give us pennies on the dollar for it. So it was kind of a big ripoff back then. You're saving a lot of money compared to what I had to do when I was in college for textbooks. And then the other advantage is the electronic stuff, the MyMathLab access. There's so many extra resources in there I'm going to show you, and even the homework's a lot better, so it's a much better deal for a less total money than it used to be. You will definitely need some kind of calculator for this class. It's recommended to get a TI 83 or 84. Any version of an 83 or an 84 from Texas Instruments is what TI stands for. They're one of the leading calculator companies. But if you have a different calculator, that's fine. I will, from time to time during the class, show how to do stuff with one of these 83 or 84 calculators. It can save a lot of hard effort and time if you have one, and if you don't, you can just do it slower and longer if need be. But that definitely helps to have one of these calculators. It's just not an absolute requirement. It's another possible $100 investment, though, if you're going to get one of these. If this is the final math class you're ever taking, then probably you don't want to invest $100 in a calculator. But if you are, even though you're on this path of business calculus, somebody could then switch to the other path and go to pre-calculus and Calc 1 and Calc 2 and Calc 3. If somebody's going to all those math classes, then it's definitely worth the investment to buy one of these 83 or 84 calculators. Not only do they do a lot of stuff that makes things easier, but it's a calculator that would be very good in all of those math classes. You wouldn't have to buy a new calculator every time you go to another class. Okay, here's contact information for me. So I'm what's called an adjunct professor. I just work part-time at Lone Star College. I do teach full-time at HCC, Houston Community College. So I have full-time professors have office hours. They have an office and office hours to help students. As an adjunct, I don't have an office, so I just make office hours by appointment. So you can call me or you can email me and we can set something up. You can always ask questions through email as well. The school does have extensive free math tutoring, so you can also take advantage of that. It's available at any campus. If you're close enough to any Lone Star campus to just show up. Every campus has free math tutoring. They have it days, nights, weekends, online, in person. So it's very helpful if you get a little behind, and even though you can get help from me and email me anytime for sure, sometimes somebody needs more help than just that, than just a few quick questions over email. So then that's what's nice is they have the free math tutoring that they'll sit down with you for hour after hour after hour if that's what you need. They're paid professional tutors, and that's what their job is. So there's contact information here for the college itself. So there's a division dean, Mr. Benzel. There's a department chair, Mr. Farr. You can call or email them if any issues come up. There's advising services and veteran services. Here's the Learning Center phone number. Testing Center, you're just going to take your tests at home, so you won't need that. But library, you could, if you have a class where you need to do a research paper, you can go to the library or call them. Okay, after we're done with the syllabus and calendar, I'm going to show you how to do this MyMathLab registering. But in the process of registering for it, you need this course ID, Prather 19726. That takes you into where our course is, where all the homework and the reviews and the tests are. Then every other time after you register, then you can just sign into it, pearson.com, or you can you can literally just put mymathlab.com and it'll direct you to the right place. If you don't want to try to memorize different websites, it's the same as the name of the company, MyMathLab. You just do mymathlab.com and you get there. Now, if you get any kind of technical issues with MyMathLab, I'm not a technology expert in any way, and I don't work for MyMathLab. They're just a company, a third party that we have a contract with our school. So if you have any technical issues with it, you'll need to go to this support website for Pearson, and then you can either call a phone number or chat with an agent, and they're usually pretty good with helping issues. People in the past have told me, occasionally I've had some students complain to me that the help was like worthless, but usually they're pretty good with it. And if you get a bad experience, then maybe try it with a different person, because they're usually pretty good. Your grade has 3 components to it. There are 4 regular tests that happen about 3 or 4 weeks apart, and that's worth 60% of your grade. The final exam's worth 20%, and the homework's worth 20%. And homework is broken up into 2 parts. There's actual homework and there's reviews. So homework and reviews are each 10% of your grade. Reviews do count as a grade. I always get students who don't do the first review, and then as soon as the grade book shows a 0 for it, they freak out and wonder and email me, and they're saying, oh, I never thought the reviews were a grade. I thought they were just optional. But that tells me they didn't read the syllabus or they weren't listening during this video here. So yes, they count as a grade. We put grades into D2L also, so at any time you can go into D2. We don't. Some Lone Star classes use D2L for everything in the class, but we only use MyMathLab for grades. But we are required to put grades into D2L just so a student can know their grade at any point. But there's also a grade book in MyMathLab that I'm going to show you, and then that's also a way to know your grade at any point. And then at the end of the semester, I'll compare the two and make sure they're at least close, and then that's what your final average will be. If you get in the 90s for your semester average, that's an A, 80s is a B, 70s is a C, 60s is a D, and below that's an F. Getting in the 60s is technically passing the class. Many students are going to transfer to a 4-year college eventually, or maybe you're in a certain program like the nursing program or a business program. Something like that, they often don't take a D for a grade. To those students, getting a D is the same as getting an F to them. But a D is technically passing. Sometimes a student's just at a community college to get their associate's degree, and if they get a D in a class, that's technically you get credit for the class, so you can get an associate's degree by getting a D. So for many students, anything less than a 70 is bad for them, but some people, they'll take a 60 and just get their associate's degree. I do round up 0.5, so if you get 89.5, I would make that a 90. There are some professors that are real strict in that. Every professor has some things they're lenient about and some things they're strict about. I'm strict about some other things that you're about to see, but for grades, if somebody's close, I would consider things like how much effort did they put into the class, how close were they, how did they do on the final. I don't just take any one little item. Everything counts. So just because you do very well or very poorly on any one individual thing, that's no indication of overall grade. In fact, I just had this same exact class in the summer, and one student was, I guess they were just so busy doing other things that they weren't putting enough time into the class. And their homework average was 40, their review average was a 20, and one review they even got a 1 on it, a 1 out of 100 on a review. They tried one problem and just gave up on it. So their homework and review average was so low, they got C's and B's on every test, and then they must have studied really hard for the final and they got a 94 on the final. But the overall average was 76 because everything counts. You can't just do well on one thing and say, hey, I got a good final exam grade, I deserve this grade. And the girl, she emailed me, she's like, it should be impossible to not get an A if I get an A on the final, but that's only 20% of your grade. So you can't just ignore homework all semester long and then all of a sudden pick up one exam and do really well and expect to get a good grade then at that point. The whole semester counts. If she had been doing her homework and her reviews all semester long, she probably would have got A's on every test. She was probably very good at math and very smart and just was either too busy or lazy to do the homework, but that counts too. Now, you're expected to take all your tests at the scheduled times. All our tests have 2-day windows, so in an online class like this, you get a little more flexibility of when you take your tests. If you're in an in-person class, you have to take them when the whole class takes them. But here you get a 2-day window for every test. So unless it's an extreme emergency, like you're unconscious in the hospital or you're in jail and you can't even get out to do a test, then there's really no excuse to miss a test with a 2-day window. So if you miss a test, unless there's an extreme emergency that you can document, then you're just going to get a 0 for it. The withdrawal date is November 14th. This is if a student is doing poorly in a class and they don't want to get a A, B, C, D, or F, they can withdraw by November 14th, and then it's as if they were never in the class, although they did spend the money on the class and spend some time working on it. But if you stick in the class the whole semester and fail or get a lower grade, a lot of students panic and think, oh no, now my GPA is ruined forever. But if you retake the class and do better the second time, then that's the only grade that counts. You can literally fail a class, and at that moment your GPA will suffer. But if you retake it and get an A the second time, then only the A counts, and you can go right back to having a 4.0 GPA. Now, nobody wants to have to take a class a second time and spend the money and the time doing it. But if you find that sometimes you get people that are just so busy they don't have time for the class, and that's why they get low grades, that is an option too. If you do poorly on the first test, I wouldn't panic immediately at that point and drop the class. I get people that do that. But I've had people do poorly on the first test and come back and pass the class. I even had somebody fail the first test and get an A in the class one time. It was a fresh out of high school student who thought this was easy and didn't do any work the whole first unit. Failed the first test with like a 58, and that woke them up, and they worked extremely hard the rest of the semester and got close to 100 on everything else and ended up with an A. So that is possible too. I also get students every semester, and I can't understand why, even the first 2 weeks can be free. There's no reason to delay getting started in my math lab. I'll try to contact them and say, hey, we're a week or 2 weeks into the semester and you still haven't registered for my math lab yet. And they're like, oh, I'm waiting to get paid, but it doesn't matter. You can do it for free. The first 2 weeks can be done for free. If you're not registered by September 6th, you can be dropped from the class. You're getting so far behind, it's impossible to catch up. And they always tell me, oh, I know all the other students that did this failed, but I'm special. I'm gonna work so hard and pass, but they never do. So it's just very important to get started right away. Don't wait 2 weeks to start working on this. You're never going to get a good grade on the first test if you do that. And if you're a financial aid status student, you might lose your financial aid getting dropped from a class like this. If you get behind, even at other points of the semester, you can be dropped from the course. So that's the issue with a class like this, is we don't have set time schedules for class. I'm going to release 2 videos a week. And it's really a work at your own pace class as long as you meet the testing deadlines and the homework deadlines. But if you wait till the last minute to try to do everything, you're probably going to get a terrible grade on everything. So if you at least keep up with what I'm doing in my 2 videos a week, that's a good pace to stay at. Because we don't have the in-person classes are nice because it forces students to stay on pace. But in these online classes, sometimes people just get busy and they think they can just put it off, and it's human nature to procrastinate. And so you don't have to do homework on a daily basis necessarily, but if you're not doing it regularly, you're probably not going to get good test grades. And if you don't at least stay close to where I am in my videos each week, then you're probably in danger of being behind where you're going to start doing poorly. I get a lot of test grades where there's A's and F's. There's a lot of A's and F's on almost every test. It's because the people that put the time in do well, and the people that don't, they typically do really poorly. Okay, if you're caught cheating in any way, you can get a 0 or an F for the exam or assignment you're working on. If the behavior continues or gets even more extreme, then you can get an F for the course. You can be withdrawn from the course or program, and you can even be expelled from the college district and never allowed to take classes again. And I'm just skimming through some of this stuff. This is more legal stuff that the school has placed in here for us. Here's the final note in the syllabus. This is the area that I am kind of strict on. There's no makeup assignments, there's no drop tests, there's no extra credit, there's no due date extensions. These math classes, maybe this is your final math class, but the way these math classes are taught, we're teaching them in anticipation of getting you ready for whatever math class could come next. If you don't do things, or some teachers drop tests, but then students can take whole units off and say, well, I'm kind of busy this next 3 weeks, I'm just going to skip this chapter and that'll be the test I drop. But then when you get to the next math class, then you don't know how to do any of that stuff. So in my opinion, this is important. Everything's important in the grade. Just like that girl that decided not to do homework all semester long and tried to get an A in the class just by getting an A in the final. That doesn't work. Everything's important. Everything counts. So that's why I don't give makeup assignments or drop tests or extra credit or due date extensions. Students that do their work would be angry to know later that I had these deadlines and all of a sudden one student came to me and said, I was a little busy. Can I get an extra week to do my homework? Oh, okay, you're a nice person. I'll give you an extra week. Everybody else in the class will be very angry that why did I give them extra time and nobody else got extra time? There's 2-day windows for tests. If you can't get a test in a 2-day window, then you're just out of luck. So if you can't keep up with deadlines, then you need to take a different class that's on a more rigid schedule so you can keep a better pace going. These classes are very beneficial for people that are disciplined enough to keep up a good pace. But if you're a heavy procrastinator, then this may not be the class for you. So there's the entire syllabus, and I skim through the most important things and leave the rest up to you to read if you want to take the time to read the other important parts to that. Here is a calendar for the course. So this video is for Monday, August 29th. And we're just doing this introduction to the class so you know how to get going in the class. I'm sort of treating this class as if it's a Tuesday, Thursday in-person class. That way you'll have the same amount of time put into the class as an in-person class. So every Tuesday and Thursday throughout the semester, that's when I'll release a lecture video. And so there's going to be 2 videos this week. One of them will cover all the information about section 2.1 and homework examples. And then on Thursday, there'll be one for section 2.2. And then we do have a Labor Day holiday coming up right here. But since I'm treating this class like a Tuesday, Thursday class, then this Monday holiday won't matter. So then the second week we do 2.3 and 2.4. This ODR that's a code for the teachers. That means official day roster. That's when the rosters get officially set in stone. So anybody who's been inactive up to that point just gets dropped from the class automatically. Then the third week we do 2.5 and 3.1. And then the fourth week is when the first unit ends. So sometimes you could have tests that are just 1 chapter or 2 chapters at a time. But then the issue is some tests cover like 10 sections and another test might cover 4 or 5. So rather than having some tests harder than others, I like them all to be roughly equal in difficulty. So I kind of separate this by an equal number of sections, or roughly equal. So the first test covers 7 different sections. 5 sections from chapter 2 and 2 sections from chapter 3. You need to know everything for the final anyway, so it shouldn't matter that there's a little bit of chapter 3 on this first test. So then I'll have a video for Thursday, September 22nd, that will review everything, and that'll be the review you're doing in My Math Lab. And then you have this 2-day window to take the first test. So you can treat this like a Tuesday, Thursday class and go ahead and take your test right away on September 22nd if you think you're ready. But I'm allowing a 2-day window since we don't have set time for class, and that will allow more people flexibility in their schedules, and you get any time on September 22nd or September 23rd to take the test one time. Now it is only 1 attempt per test, so don't try it first thing Thursday morning and then, oh, I did terrible, I wish I would have studied more. So many students wait till Friday night, the last possible moment, to do it. and that gives them more time to study and practice, which is fine, but don't wait so late that you run out of time and don't get the test in. There's a hard deadline of 11:59 p.m., so if you run out of time and the test cuts off, that's just on you then. So that's the first 4 weeks of the class. And you just do everything in MyMathLab. Homework's in MyMathLab, reviews are in MyMathLab, and all the tests are in MyMathLab. Anywhere you have internet access, you can do them. That's the flexibility of a class like this. So then our second unit, we pick up with section 3.3. I'll have a video on this Tuesday for that. Then on Thursday, there'll be a video for 3.4. And then we do 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, and 4.5. There's another 7 sections right there. So Thursday, October 20th will be the review day, and or you can review and test in the same day if you want to get it out of the way, or you can take the second day and take test 2 on Friday, October 21st. So you can follow this schedule. If you're at least close to this kind of a pace or this schedule, then you're doing well for your timing. If some students are busy all week working full-time jobs and then they want to catch up on the weekends, you don't have to do anything on the weekends, but you can choose to do homework on the weekend if you want. So if these videos come out on Tuesday and Thursday and you're not watching them till Saturday and Sunday, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the flexibility of an online class. But you do have to get the homework, reviews, and tests all done by these Friday nights every 3 or 4 weeks. So that weekend, October 22nd and 23rd, the only thing you could do there is maybe try to work ahead a little bit. But the video will come out on Tuesday each week and Thursday. Now we do need to double up on these 2 days. In chapter 5, we'll do 5.1 and 5.2 and 5.3 and 5.4. So that's the only 2 days where you have to do 2 sections in a day. And you could even spread it out a little bit and do like 5.1 on Tuesday and 5.2 on Wednesday, 5.3 on Thursday, 5.4 on Friday if you want, or even into the weekend a little if you want. But again, the homework isn't due till the tests are due, so there's plenty of time even if you don't finish it all in one sitting. The homework's not like a test. You don't have to do it all at one time. So that's 4 sections there. Then we do 6.1, 6.4, and 6.5. So again, 7 total sections for that third unit. Then we have our review on Thursday, November 10th, and test 3 is due Friday, November 11th. MDR is a midday roll. So they do an official day roll at the start of the 3rd week. That's when the roster gets set. And then they do a mid-semester check of the roster just to see if people are starting to be inactive, then this is where you might get dropped from the class again. So if sometimes students start off well in the first unit and all of a sudden they get bogged down and they stop doing work and it's like they just disappear and we don't see them again. So that's another chance for a teacher to drop a student from a class if they want to. There is an official day to drop. Students can drop themselves from the class by November 14th. And between September 12th, the official day, and November 14th, the last day to withdraw, if students are inactive and not coming to class for in-person or just not doing their homework in an online class, then a teacher can drop you in that period, or if a student just wants to drop for whatever reason, they can drop from the class. If you are going to drop, you have to fill out the paperwork from the registrar, and I think for online classes, they make you talk to a counselor first. They're going to try to talk you out of it and say, don't give up at this point. Okay, so that's the third test, November 11th. You'll get 3 tests in before you need to decide if you want to drop or not. So if you have an F or a D at that point, then for some students, they're going to want to drop the class and try it again another time. But as I said before, don't just give up after the first test. I've had people do poorly on the first test and come back and do well on the other ones. And especially if this is a class you have to have, then there's really no reason to drop until you get close to November 14th. The more you learn now, the easier it'll be the second time. And if you just give up after the first test and then retake the class the second time, it's going to be hard the second time because you really haven't learned anything at that point. The more you learn now, the easier it'll be the second time. I get students, sometimes they fail or get a D, and then that's not good enough for them, and they take the class again and get an A the second time. It's a whole lot easier the second time. Not that anybody's hoping to have to do it twice, but if you get in a situation like that, that can happen sometimes. And then only the higher grade counts is the nice thing. Okay, we have a Thanksgiving break. They give you Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday off during the Thanksgiving break, plus Saturday and Sunday, obviously. But there is class on Monday and Tuesday of the Thanksgiving break for Lone Star College. So we'll do 6-6 on Tuesday, November 15th, 7-1 on November 17th, and then 7-2 is officially set for that Tuesday. So I'll release a video that day. Again, if you're on vacation for Thanksgiving break and an online class, it's not that big of an issue because you can always do it anytime, anywhere you have internet access. Or you could even wait till after Thanksgiving to work on it because there's no test due anytime around there. So after Thanksgiving, we do 7-3 and 7-4. And then finally 7-5. So that one, all the first three tests are 7 sections each. This last one I think is only 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. And that's kind of nice because we kind of lose a Thursday because of Thanksgiving. So that's why I did it that way. There's 7 sections in each of the first 3 tests, and then the last test only has 6 sections. So there's a review on December 8th, and then that's the 2-day window for test 4, December 8th and 9th. And that's kind of the unofficial end of the semester at that point. There's no new material after that. The final week is just for reviewing and taking the final. And you have a 2-day window for the final on December 15th and 16th, as just like all the other tests. And the review for the final is longer than the other reviews. So I'll make 2 videos for the review just to kind of break it up since it's so long. So we'll do half of the review on Tuesday and the other half on Thursday. And then you can take your final either on Thursday or Friday whenever you are ready for it. Now, I do get students that are desperate to get their grades at the end of the semester, and they'll take the test on the 15th. And then as soon as they're done, they'll email me like, can you put my grade in right away? I need to know my grade because I got to send it off to another college. I can't put individual grades in. So all I can do is wait till everybody's done with the final on December 16th at 11:59 p.m. Then on Saturday the 17th, then I can go in and put everybody's grade in. So they only let me do it one time. I have to do the whole class at once. I can't put somebody's grade in just because they're done before everybody else. So just keep that in mind. It happens more in the summer when people are desperate to get accepted to a college in the fall, but usually at Christmas time it's not a big issue because nobody's doing anything right after finals are over. Okay, so that was the calendar. And again, it's work at your own pace as long as you meet the deadlines. Everything for a unit is due when a test is due. Plus, when we get into MyMathLab, you'll see that they have the deadlines are right next to each thing that you work on. Okay, so last thing for this introductory video, I'm going to show you how to register and work inside of MyMathLab. Like I said before, this isn't their official website, but you can just put mymathlab.com right into a browser, mymathlab.com. It's actually pearson.com/mymathlab, but it's easier just to type mymathlab.com because that's what it's called, and it'll direct you to the right spot. So first time you need to come over here and register now as a student. If you use this in college algebra or some other class, then you can sign in with your old username and password if you want, or you can just start over and register now as a student. You need to have an email address, the course ID that's in the syllabus, and then if you bought a brand new textbook, access codes inside, don't pay anything extra, you already paid enough for that. Or you can pay now with a credit card or PayPal, or you can do the 2-week free trial period. If you're a financial aid student and your financial aid has not come in yet, then do the 2-week free trial period, and once you get the money, then you can pay once the financial aid comes in. Click OK, register now. And first you're going to put that course ID in, which is Prather, my last name Prather, and then that 5-digit number. I got to go back to the syllabus for that. Here it is. Prather 19726. 19726. Continue to the register. And it's making me sign in just because it recognizes that I'm a former user. But you'll get to this page right here. So If you bought a brand new textbook, don't pay anything now. You just open up the textbook. Inside there's a cardboard thingy, rip off the tab, and there's a real long string of numbers and letters that you put in as an access code, and then you don't pay anything extra for this. But you paid over $200 is the issue. So for $200+ you get a brand new textbook and free access to MyMathLab. Or you can come down here if you're waiting for your financial aid, or even if you're not a financial aid student. If you don't want to pay today, you can get this temporary access without payment for 14 days. So do that option. Anybody has the ability to do that option, which is why nobody should start late in this class. Then either now or in 2 weeks, you're going to pay for it with a credit card or PayPal. If you want the cheapest possible option, it's right here. You can also buy access in a bookstore or online somewhere, but you're going to pay more that way because those people want a piece of the action. They want to make a profit. So you can actually go down to the Lone Star bookstore and buy an access only without buying the textbook. But it's going to cost more than these prices right here. The cheapest option, $75. That's a very good deal compared to the past. I used to pay over $100 when I was in college for textbooks. Now they're over $200. And you got nothing back for them hardly at the end of the semester. Now for $75, less than half from before, and that's even including inflation, you get access to the whole thing, and not only is there extra resources I never had, even the homework is better, which I'm about to show you. Now, the reason they have two prices here is you can bet on yourself. If you're fairly confident you're going to pass this class, then choose the $75 option. But then you only get 18 weeks of access to MyMathLab, which is the length of the semester plus a couple weeks. It used to be that they had one price. I think it used to be $90. And then if a student failed a class, they could just take it again and not have to pay for MyMathLab a second or a third or a fourth time. But they do get some students that fail over and over and over again, and they were just getting free access year after year after year every time they would retake the class. So they decided to reward students that do well and force students that struggle a lot to make a decision here. If you think you might fail the class, then you can pay $109 and you'll get access up to 2 years. So that means you could fail the class 3 times and still never have to pay a second, third, or fourth time. Instead of paying $75 over and over and over again, then you'd be paying $300 instead of $100 if you failed the class 3 times. But if you think you're going to pass, then you even get a discount. It's only $75 instead of $90. Now, you don't know if you're going to pass or not, so it's maybe a tough decision to make. Is it worth saving $35 now to take the chance you're going to pass? And then if you fail or drop and have to take it again, you're going to have to pay that $75 again. So another issue might be, are you kind of busy? Do you have 5 or 6 classes and a full-time job? Then you might want to, this is like insurance, in case you get so busy that you can't keep up with the class or it gets too hard for you and you have to drop, then this would be the better option for those types of situations. But it's totally up to you which one of these you want to do. Both of these are going to be cheaper here than any other place. There's no other place you can get this cheaper. So yeah, maybe you already went down to the bookstore and you showed them your schedule and said, oh, I'm in this class, what do I need? Maybe they gave you stuff you didn't need. They're just trying to make a profit off you. So if you haven't used them yet, maybe return them with your receipt and get a refund and then come here and pay less here. That's always the best option. So once you click one of these two options, then you're going to fill out all your information, your name. Now I need to mention this. Sometimes on the roster, I get a Richard Prather. That's my name, Richard Prather. That's what the Lone Star College roster shows me. But I go by Rick Prather. So when I'm registering for MyMathLab, it's okay if I put Rick Prather in there. I would be able to figure out, okay, the roster says Richard, but MyMathLab says Rick. That's probably the same person. Another issue is sometimes you get a Hillary Clinton on the roster, Hillary Clinton. Or what happens sometimes, it's Hillary Clinton inside of MyMathLab. because she did this with college algebra last semester. Back in the spring, she was Hillary Clinton in college algebra, and now she's Hillary Trump in business calculus because she got married over the summer. And MyMathLab won't let you change the last name if you've used it before. So suddenly I've got this Hillary Trump on my Lone Star roster, but inside of MyMathLab there's a Hillary Clinton. And there's no other Hillary in the entire class, so I'm thinking maybe that's the same person. This happens commonly, actually. So it doesn't bother me, that's fine, just I need to know. I even had somebody in the summer class who was like I'll just make up a very generic name, a John Doe. There was somebody whose name was John Doe, Joe Smith, a real common name actually, a Joe Smith, a John Doe. That's how it was in MyMathLab. But there was nobody with any kind of a name similar to that on the whole roster. And there were some names on the roster that weren't in MyMathLab, and sometimes no matter how many times I email them and try to tell them sign up for it, they just refuse to do it for some reason, even though they can get it for free. So any of them, I just put zeros in the gradebook for them. Well, one of them had a unique name from another country, and it was just totally different. And I guess since their name was different in another country, often what they'll do is they'll make up a more Americanized name just for purposes of talking to friends or whatever. And like there was a hockey player one time named Igor Larionov, a very thick Russian name, but he wanted to be called Gary when he came over to the US, just because Gary is a more American name. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But I didn't know was the problem. So after I gave them all zeros on the first homeworks and review and test, they email me and they're like, "Oh, I'm that Joe Smith in MyMathLab." And I said, "That's fine. You should have just told me right away at the beginning of the semester. There's no way. How could I guess that a Igor Larionov is Joe Smith suddenly? There's no connection to those names. So you just picked a convenient American name. That's fine. So I don't care what name you put in there, but if it is going to be different than what's on the roster, just let me know that. Otherwise, I won't be able to connect your grades to the right person. Other than that, then just put in whatever you want for your name, and that's fine. I'll be able to figure it out in most cases, or just let me know. And then once you're done registering, then every other time you come, you'll just sign in with whatever username and password you created. Now I teach this, all my classes, even at HCC, I use this stuff. Here were my summer classes here. I had a summer 1325, and now I'm teaching it again in the fall. So our class is right here. There's the course ID, Prather 19726. Since nobody has seen this video yet, I'm recording this video before the first day of class, so nobody has enrolled yet. But if you look at some of my live HCC classes, they already started a week ago. I have 24 people enrolled in this class, and 14 of them chose the unpaid temporary access, which is fine. 18 in this class, 13 did the unpaid temporary access. So there's no reason to start late. Use the unpaid temporary access if you have to. If you're waiting a week or two to get started, you're probably setting yourself up to fail the first class. Now, in the summer, we use the 11th edition, and now they've switched to the 12th edition. Did I remember that right? Where's the textbook information? I don't see it. Was it on the first page? Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. Yeah, 12th edition. They literally just switched to the 12th edition on us. So unfortunately, all my tests and homework and reviews are gone now. That's what they do, this just to make more money, but then it causes us teachers a lot of headache because I got to recreate everything from scratch now. So I've got some of the stuff ready, and by the time you actually open this up, more stuff will be here. But on the assignments tab, I've got the first 3 homeworks done already. And before I'm going to release this video on Monday, August 29th. By then, you'll see the whole first unit will be here. And as the semester goes on, I'll keep adding to it. But I literally had to start all over from scratch and recreate everything. So the assignments tab over here on the left, this is what you're going to use the most. All the stuff that counts for a grade will be here. The first 3 homeworks are here. They're due September 23rd, 11:59 p.m. That's when the first test is due. So there'll be 4 more homeworks here eventually for the first unit, and there'll be a review and a test. And then the second unit will pick up after that. And then if I teach this class again in the spring, then I can just copy this one, and then those students will have the whole semester ready as soon as the class starts. When you want to do a homework, you'll see this in my first lecture video for Tuesday, where I'm going to work out examples of section 2.1. There are 20 questions in this first assignment. And you've got from now until September 23rd to get the grade as high as possible. So you don't have to do all 20 in one sitting. You can work on it a little, stop, come back, work on it some more, stop, come back. And the percentage right up here, I'm currently at 0% because I haven't gotten anything right yet. That will increase over time as I get more questions right. But what's great about these electronic homeworks versus the old days of doing homework out of a textbook is that they have like 10 versions of every problem. So even if you get a question right, maybe you got it right just because you guessed, or you weren't fully sure that you were doing it well. Unfortunately, on a test, you don't get the option to do problems more than once. So you have to get good enough at the homework to be able to do well on tests. That's the whole point of homework. So you may have to do a problem more than once. And if you get them wrong, you can do them over again too. So just because you get a question wrong doesn't mean it's wrong forever on the homework. So many students actually get very high homework grades because if you put enough time into it, it's possible to get 100 on every single one of them. I get students that get 100 on every homework, or close to 100 on every homework. And then I get a few people like that one girl that have 20s and 30s and 40s on every homework, or even zeros on some of them. And sometimes it's just they don't have enough time for everything. So some of them are like multiple choice, yes and no. You can click this little icon thing, and you'll see me when I do my lecture videos when I'm working on problems that you'll see how this works some more. But you can jump to any question you want. I can go to number 11. This one's fill in the blank. Now if you get a question wrong and check the answer, it says it's wrong, and then sometimes they give you some information here that might help you understand what you did wrong. This one doesn't really help that much, but hit OK. And if you keep getting it wrong, they give you like 3 or 4 tries, and then it finally says final check. Once it's wrong, then they tell you the right answer. Sometimes that's all it takes to know what you did wrong. Maybe you put parentheses and, oh, wait a minute, it needed brackets. You might have had the math part right, but maybe just the way you typed it was wrong. Or maybe it's totally wrong, like mine. I intentionally got this wrong, and it's way wrong. So then maybe you're like totally confused. I don't understand how to do this problem. Well, this is what's great about it is they have help me solve this, view an example. There's get more help. You can watch a video about it. You can pull up the electronic textbook. You can ask my instructor. Feel free to send these to me. Since we don't meet in person or even online anywhere, you can just email me questions, or you can hit this Ask My Instructor. It'll send me an email. It'll have a link in it. I can open up the exact problem you're working on. Because sometimes people will email me and they'll say, I'm stuck on number 11 on the homework. But if they don't send this to me, I don't know which version of the problem they have. So it's kind of hard for me to reply back and help you out. I don't know which problem you have. Your problem is going to be different than mine in most cases, because they have 10 versions of every question. So my graph looks like this. Your graph might be going the other way. It's the same kind of question, it's just the numbers are different. So that's what's nice is whether you do these once or more than once, it's a different experience every time you do a given problem. And that was never the case with the old textbooks where you did problem 11 in the textbook. As soon as you did it and saw the answer, there was no point in doing it anymore because it would be the same problem every single time you did it. Now it's a slightly different problem every time you do it. So when you get these wrong, they're not wrong forever. I'm just going to get this wrong on purpose so I can show you what happens at that point. So now I got that one wrong. Okay, it's got too many parts, unfortunately. But I was trying to get one wrong to where, see how it's a red X right there? So once it's wrong with a red X, if you don't ever do it again, then it'll stay wrong. But as soon as I get through all the parts of this problem, right here it'll say try another. And then you can do that and it starts all over with a different version. So I'm going to work as time permits as many examples as possible, and I can do that because your problems are going to probably be slightly different. On occasion, out of the 20 problems, maybe 1 or 2 of them in the whole assignment, if you watch my videos, maybe 1 or 2 of them will be exactly the same one you have. because there's only like 10 versions of each one. But even if that comes up and you might be sitting there thinking, oh, wow, this is nice, he's doing my homework for me, that's not the best way to get ready for tests. It doesn't matter if you get 100. It's easy to get hundreds on homeworks if you put the time in. That's no guarantee you're going to get 100 on the test, because a test doesn't have multiple chances to get things right. You don't check each answer. You don't help me solve this. There's no extra help on tests. It's a one shot only to get things right. So the only way to do well on tests, unless you're already a math expert, is to use the homework and the reviews to get good at them. That's why you might have to do problems more than once, even if you're getting them right. So at any point I can just save my work, and it's warning me that I didn't finish this problem, but yeah, I need to go. So any point you stop and save your work, it'll just keep you right where you're at. So I currently have 0 out of 20 points because I'm going to wait till my Tuesday video to actually work these 20 problems. And then as I get them right, my points will start going higher. If you get one right and redo it for practice and get it wrong the second time, you can choose an option of either keeping your points, or you could punish yourself and lose your points if you wanted to and force yourself to do it again. But you can always click, I want to save my points. And so in theory, if you get things right first and try them again just for practice and get them wrong, you don't lose your points necessarily. And then as I've got until September 23rd to get this score as high as I want it to be. And even if it's 100, I can still go back until September 23rd and practice some more. So that's what's great about the electronic homework versus the homework of the past. I never had this when I was in school. And that's just the homework side of this. There's also some other great things. So if the student grade book, this will be your way to see your grades at any point. You can also open up old past due assignments in the grade book, because students will sometimes email me towards this final and they'll say, can you open up the 2.1 homework? I just want to look at some problems to study for the final, when really what they want to do is work on it some more and get their grade higher. I don't need to reopen it because you can open it yourself in the student grade book. It'll open in a view-only mode, so you can't change your answers or your grade, but you can see every question and answer if you really want to. The ebook, so you click e-text and you can click any chapter and any section, because we're going to do section 2.1 first on Tuesday, August 30th. That's our first actual lecture video. And then there's a video presentation. So let's say my videos are not helping you, then you could watch the author makes videos too. You could watch the author's videos if you want. And then you click this, the e-text, and the electronic textbook pops up. And it's literally no different than a real textbook. In fact, they'll give us textbooks for free, but I haven't gotten this new one yet. So when I was creating those homeworks, I actually had to pull up the electronic textbook to see what good problems I could find in here. So it literally just took me to page 49 of the real textbook. And I can click this arrow to move to page 50. Page 51. They have examples in here. Plus, I'm going to do examples in the videos. So there's a lot of stuff here that you could use and learn from. Before the pandemic, there were online classes back then, but teachers often didn't make videos like I'm doing this semester. So students would have to read the textbook and watch the author's videos to learn how to do the class. Some people still do that. See, back when I was in college, they would tell us, go to page 58 and 59 and do all the odd problems and look them up in the back of the book. But as soon as you do number 13 and look up the answer in the back of the book, there's no point in doing 13 again. It's always going to be the exact same question. But in the electronic homework, question number 13, this is one of the 10 versions they have of it. 2x plus 3. Then you try another and you get 3x plus 4 or 5x minus 2. It's different every time you try another one. And it's really like quizzing yourself. If you can do a problem over and over and get it right repeatedly, then you know you're going to do well on the test for that. If you're constantly getting it wrong, try another. You got it wrong, try another. That tells you you're not ready for the test for that kind of question. So that's what's great about the electronic side of this. Oops, okay, so where was I? Here. Okay, so you can go to any section, any page of the textbook in the e-textbook. Study plan, you can play with that if you want. That's just optional, you don't need to. But look at this here, video and resource library. This is what a real textbook does not provide for you. For any chapter and any section of the textbook, you can watch an interactive figure. There's the videos I mentioned already that the author created. There's activities. There's the multimedia textbook. There's animations. There's assessments. Sometimes, or at least in the past, they used to have PowerPoint slides too. So maybe some sections have that and some don't, but they even had PowerPoint slides in the past. These are all extra optional things that you don't have to do, but they're here if somebody wants them. And if you just use the real textbook, it looks like this, some kid kicking a soccer ball. The real textbook doesn't have any of this stuff. So that's what's great about this electronic stuff. It's cheaper than a real textbook, and it comes with so many extra resources that you never had before. So all this stuff's optional down here, but the assignments tab, that's where you need to go the most. Everything that counts for a grade is under assignments. And the e-text, you might need to pull that up and then go to the student gradebook if you want to know your grades at any time. This will be instant grade all the time. The one in D2L, I only update that after each test. So that's not going to be like a dynamic grade that's changing all the time. The student gradebook, every time you work on stuff and change your grade here, then it's going to change your overall grade in here. So on Tuesday, I will be making a video where I'm going to go over all or most of these 20 questions as time permits. Sometimes I'm hoping the videos last around an hour. So if it starts bogging down and getting too long, then I'll just maybe skip a few problems that are similar. But for the most part, I'm hoping to cover most or all of the homework examples, because your problem should be slightly different than mine on a given problem. And you can always try another yourself if you are having trouble with one of them. So that's basically how the class is going to go. Starting on Tuesday, August 30th, every Tuesday and Thursday, there'll be a new video showing examples of homework problems and discussing any important topics, like if I pull up the electronic textbook. And then once every 3 or 4 weeks, there's a test. So I'll do a review video. And then you can use the review video to work on your review. And then once you do a review, then you'll be ready to take the test. And it's up to you when to work on stuff in this class, but just don't get bogged down and try to have to do it all at the very last minute. Everything for this first 4 weeks is due Friday, September 23rd. And if you keep up with assignments, you can work ahead too if you want. Some people work ahead before I even release a video. You don't have to do that, but some people do. So if you can use MyMathLab to learn from, some people learn from MyMathLab. They just try a problem and they hit view an example or help me solve this or ask my instructor, and they just learn how to do it themselves. That's how online classes went for a long time. Some people are good like that. If they're math experts and they're just taking this class because it's required, you're free to do that. That's the advantage of these online classes. There's a lot of flexibility in when you want to put time in. But the only thing I definitely harp on is don't get too far behind. If you're more than a week behind on this calendar, you're in danger of doing very poorly on tests. And those people always try to tell me, oh, don't worry, I'll catch up and do well. And maybe a few of them do, but most don't. So try to keep up at least with my videos each time, and then you'll be at a good pace. If you're a little ahead or a little behind, that's fine. You don't have to get 100 on every homework each time a new video comes out, but if you do, great. And then you can just work on them as you go, and then make sure by the 23rd you got them all as high as you want them to be, and then you take your test by the 23rd. The test will only be available on 2-day windows. So if you do all the assignments early, you can't say, oh, can you open the test for me on the 19th? They're only open for 2 days. So the 22nd and the 23rd. If you're ready for it early, take it on the 22nd. If not, wait till the 23rd and get everything locked down and studied and practice as much as possible. So this is the end of my first video, just an introductory video. And good luck when you get working on stuff tomorrow, Tuesday, August 30th. There'll be a video for section 2.1.